Hello students, welcome to Plus 1 Political Science class. Today I will continue lesson 1 International Relations. The objectives of today's class are Rise of New World Order in the Post-War Period and International Relations. Under this topic I will discuss End of European Domination of the World, Emergence of the Cold War in the International Relations, Birth of the Foreign Policy of Non-Alignment and the Non-Aligned Movement, Birth of Nuclear Weapons and the Emergence of the Nuclear Age, Birth of United Nations Organization. Before discussion of today's topic, I will discuss the key terms with you. The first key term is imperialism, a policy of extending a country's power and influence through the use of military force and use of country's resources for exploitation. For example, European countries followed this policy in 17th and 18th century against Asian and African countries. Power vacuum, condition when someone has lost control of something and no one has replaced that vacuum. For example, after Second World War, Britain and France lost power in Europe and it created a situation of power vacuum in Europe. Marshall Plan, US economic aid program providing aid to Western Europe. After Second World War, non-alignment, forum of 120 developing countries not to join any power bloc. After the UNO, it is the largest grouping of the states worldwide. Unipolarism, an international system in which one nation exercises the greatest amount of power. For example, USA after 1991, that is after the disintegration of USSR. Now I will discuss today's topic, that is Rise of New World Order in the post-war period and international relations. Students, it is from pages 8 to 12. The first half of the 20th century witnessed the two world wars and it gave a mighty blow to the pre-war world order. It had a big impact on the nature and course of the post-war relations among all the nations. A new world order began developing under its impact, and soon it came under the presence of the two superpowers, that is USA and the USSR. A Cold War between the USA and its capitalist democratic bloc on the one side and the USSR and its socialist bloc on the other side led to the decline of imperialism of European states like Great Britain and France and rise of the new sovereign states in Asia and Africa. There was birth of United States organization, birth of era of nuclear weapons, and the birth of non-alignment and several other developments in the international relations in the post-World War period. Now, I will discuss them in detail point-wise. The first point is end of European domination of the world. Before the World War, the world was Eurocentric. All the imperial countries like Britain, France, Germany, Austria, Italy, all belonged to Europe. These countries played an important role in pre-war international relations. USA followed the policy of isolationism and used to remain away from European politics. Russia used to be a weak state before becoming socialist state of USSR. However, after the end of the Second World War, the Eurocentric world order suffered a big blow. Now, I will discuss the points to prove that how there was a shift from Eurocentric world to USA. As already I told you, USA used 2 atom bombs and came out as superpower, and Russia converted into socialist USSR, and it also came out as very strong nation after the Second World War. So these two countries came out as superpowers in international relations. In Europe, Germany and Italy were defeated, so they became very weak nations. Britain and France, the old imperial nations, no doubt were victorious states, but became very weak due to heavy war losses suffered by them. You know, the war continued for 6 years, and it's not easy to maintain the sources and resources of the war. No doubt these were imperial nations and they used their colonies as their resources, like British were ruling over India and Indian soldiers were sent in the war without consulting the Indian Congress leaders, and even the Congress one group disliked it, but ultimately it affected the sovereignty of Britain. Students, for your general awareness, I would like to tell you here that India Gate in Delhi is a war memorial. It stands as a memorial to 70,000 soldiers of the British Indian Army who died in between 1914 to 1921, that is First World War, and other Eastern African wars fought by the British. 13,300 servicemen names, including some soldiers and officers from the United Kingdom, are inscribed on the gate. The gate is designed by Sir Edwin Lutyens. The gate evokes the architectural style of Rome. Now I give you project work to find out the names of other buildings in New Delhi designed by the same architect, and now they are in use. You must work on this, and this is very interesting work. Must find out some other facts about the same building. Students, let's come to the point. I was talking about Britain and France became weak and it disturbed the balance of power in Europe. Ultimately, there appeared a power vacuum in Europe as all the European states suffered a loss of power and Europe lost its position as the epicenter of world politics. A weak Europe set the stage for liberation of Asian and African countries from the clutches of imperialism of European countries. Like India got freedom in 1947 after the Second World War ended in 1945. Same way, many Asian and African countries got independence in the coming years. The power vacuum in Europe gave a chance to USA to abandon its policy of isolationism and to increase its influence not only in Europe but also in the world at large. So these post-war developments produced a very big change in the European domination. The next point is emergence of Cold War in international relations. In order to fill the power vacuum in Europe, the USA decided to use its superior economic and military power position. USA decided to win over the democratic European countries through Marshall Plan. Now, first I will tell you a brief about Marshall Plan. This plan is named after United States Secretary of State Sir George Marshall, who felt the urgent need of such a plan. According to this plan, the United States transferred over $12 billion, equivalent to over $128 billion as of 2020, in economic recovery program to the Western European economies after the Second World War, that is in 1948. It was adopted to fight the spread of communism by USSR. Further, USSR also adopted the policy of challenging the USA policies and power in the world. In the process, they developed a Cold War, a war of nerves full of rivalries, tensions, and strains in the world, which made the international peace and security a risky and unstable peace. Is it clear? Now the next point is birth of foreign policy of non-alignment and non-aligned movement. In the era of Cold War, the new sovereign states decided to remain away from the Cold War and the security alliances of both the superpowers. The states like India, Yugoslavia, Egypt, Sri Lanka, and some others decided to follow such policy. This came to be known as the policy of non-alignment. In 1961, the countries following the non-alignment in international relations launched the movement of non-aligned for collectively withstanding the pressures of the era of Cold War by taking mutually agreed stands, decisions, and policies. The main aim of non-alignment was both to keep away from the Cold War and its alliances as well as to promote mutual understanding and cooperation among the non-aligned countries. The next point is birth of nuclear weapons and the emergence of nuclear age. Here I would like to share a famous quote of Albert Einstein. He said that I do not know with what weapons World War III will be fought, but World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones. Students, did you understand the meaning of the statement and why did Albert Einstein say so? You all know very well that USA dropped 2 atom bombs on the 2 cities of Japan and this ended the war. I discussed this point yesterday. Even the names of the bombs were also informed. No doubt this ended the Second World War. But have you ever thought about its results? Atom bombs were used by America in Second World War because that time only America had this power. But afterwards a race started for this power. Now all the countries of the world are in this race, including India, and they all have gone beyond these atom bombs. For example, I tell you about India. India made its first nuclear test on 18th May in 1974 at Pokhran in Rajasthan, and it made India a nuclear power. Even India had Pokhran's second test also on 13th May in 1998. It's just an example of India. Today, almost all the countries of the world, either big or small, have joined this race. And if there will be Third World War, you can imagine what type of weapons and bombs will be used and how long it will go. Will it go so long like First and Second World War? No, my dear students, I don't think so. You can't imagine the result, what type of result will be there. It's a time to understand Albert Einstein's statement because after Third World War, we will go back to the Stone Age and the Fourth World War will be fought with sticks and stones. No doubt, science opens the ways for research and developments, but it must be done by keeping in mind the welfare of humanity. The next and the last point of post-war period and international relations is birth of the United Nations. Students, the League of the Nations was the first international organization formed after the First World War to maintain international peace and security, but it failed in providing so. The failure of the League of Nations is proved by the fact that there was Second World War. But during the Second World War only, the leaders of the world thought of establishing a better and stronger body than the League of Nations, which could really maintain peace and security in the world. So, during the Second World War, the US President Franklin D. Roosevelt, the British Prime Minister Winston Churchill, and Soviet Premier Joseph Stalin met and they decided to set up some international organization. The United Nations, established on 24th October 1945, had 50 members who attended its first conference, and present it has 193 sovereign states as its members. It is the world's largest international organization. The UNO was designed to act as an effective platform for international peace and security and development through collective efforts of all the nations. The UN assumed the responsibility to maintain international peace and security by promoting friendly cooperation among the member nations. Along with it, the United Nations Charter laid down a collective security system as the new device of power management in international relations. Thus, the Second World War had a big impact on the international relations. Consequently, post-war world order system is very different from the pre-war world order system. This world order continued to work till the last decade of the 20th century, when it came to be replaced by US unipolarism. Unipolar power structure came into existence under the impact of the end of the Cold War and the disintegration of the USSR and its socialist bloc. Students, I already informed you that USSR was disintegrated into 15 states in 1991, and now it's no more as socialist USSR. Now it's Russia. That's why now we call it as US unipolarism. The new world order still continues to develop, and in 21st century it is described as contemporary world order. Students, this finishes the discussion of my today's topic, that is rise of new world order in the post-war period and international relations. You must read the pages from 8 to 12 and watch the video to do the snap homework questions. The questions related to today's topic are: the long question is question 3. Under the impact of the two world wars, the classical international system gave place to the new international system. Explain. And question 4. Briefly explain the features of the post-war system of international relations. And short questions are: why did imperial nations like Britain, France became weak after the Second World War? Next is: why did newly independent sovereign states decide to follow the policy of non-alignment? Next is: justify the statement, today we are living in unipolar world. Students, this finishes the topic discussion of the questions also. You will do these questions. Next time I will discuss the next topic. Till then, goodbye.